Multiple Eastern European countries triggered NATO's Article 4. Here's what that means. If you did not know, of course, some missiles, wherever they came from, we still don't exactly know, ended up going 50 miles into the border of Poland. And this is huge because if they were from Vlad, then this could obviously cause an Article 5 invoked kind of situation. And now it has caused, of course, triggered NATO's Article 4, which is basically the meeting to talk about or to essentially plan something like an Article 5. It says that Russia's ongoing assault on UKR has forced the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, and its 30-member countries to rapidly grapple with the role that they should play in the escalating conflict. It says U.S. President JB on Thursday said no U.S. troops would be sent to UKR, which is not a member of NATO, but he warned that the U.S. and its allies would defend every inch of NATO territory. This is something we've talked about many times. Essentially, UKR is off limits, but Poland or any of the other NATO states, that is 100% inside that. It says our forces are not and will not be engaged in the conflict with Vlad and UKR. But President B said in a Thursday speech from the White House, our forces are not going to Europe to fight in UKR, but to defend our NATO allies. Now, we already know that the 101st Airborne Division was actually already deployed, or part of it was deployed. And, of course, we talked about how even U.S. soldiers were deployed inside of UKR. And, of course, there's rumors and some pictures that state or at least suggest that there may be more U.S. soldiers in UKR than we think. And, of course, they officially had U.S. military going in and inspecting the weapons, which is really crazy considering if some sort of missile from one of these barrages hit, say, 2 or 3, 5, 10 of our U.S. soldiers, then that would be an event that could get us into World War III. Same with Poland, though. If we have Article 5 invoked, then that would be where NATO starts getting involved and all of us start getting involved. I personally think that we are headed for a World War III, no matter what the kind of games are going on behind the scenes that all of these rich and powerful, or whatever they're doing to kind of press that reset button, I don't know. But I do know it's pretty obvious, and obviously as all of these little steps happen, it's like you guys who have watched for 4 years go, oh, it's actually happening. We knew it would, and we called all this beforehand, and it doesn't take a genius or a psychic to see what's happening. It's simple patterns, and it's history repeating itself. It's the same things happening over and over again. So we're going to talk about this and much, much more on today's show. Wanted to get right into it, not to waste your time. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. Nobody gonna be left alive. Article 4, Article 5. Nobody gonna be left alive. Article 4, Article 5. Nobody gonna be left alive. Article 4, Article 5. All right, so what is Article 4 of NATO? Because there was a lot of confusion on Twitter and other places. Obviously, a lot of people thought that this was Article 5. Obviously, it is not. There is a difference. It says that what is Article 5? On Thursday, a group of Eastern European countries, including Bulgaria and the Czech Republic, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Romania, and Slovakia, requested discussions under NATO Article 4. It says Article 4 of the treaty allows any member nation to call for a consultation of the organization's nation's governing body the territorial integrity, political independence, or security of any parties that are threatened. It says triggering the article does not guarantee that the alliance will take action, but is a significant step in intensifying discussions between members. It says Article 4 starts formal communications on behalf of the threatened member, Poland. Now, this is something that we talked about. We actually went in depth on Article 4 and between Article 4 going in and if we saw Article 4 actually get put into place, and then that would be definitely a bad sign. We did not see it last time that there was a question of this. Now we are most definitely seeing at least this step being not only talked about, but it looks like they are going to do discussions. So what does this mean for everybody? Well, hopefully it doesn't mean anything. I really hope not, but it doesn't look like it definitely looks like today a lot of stuff happened. Obviously, this happened, and it just so happened that it happens on the same day that T-Man comes out and makes his big announcement. So everybody is covering this. I was very surprised to see CNN even covered the full speech of T-Man, basically announcing that he filed papers to run. So that's a huge story in itself. And actually, I'm quite surprised of all these news agencies that even when he was president, he would speak, and they would not put it on. They would have anything else. They would have Anderson Cooper or some other random show on when he would be making an important speech, right? You don't see that with any other president in the past except for him. But they did cover it, and a lot of people paid attention. In fact, Rumble looks like they, I believe, almost they either crashed or they said that there was some sort of DDS. We'll talk about that here in a second. And then, of course, when you defend free speech, that's what happens. But yeah, we'll go over all of that. And then if you do not know our show, remember we have a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we're going to show you here today. That way you have access to everything that we're going to show you, and you have a source behind it. We don't believe in just telling you something and not backing it up. We try to make sure that it's all there for you to have your fingertips on, and you can actually grab a second device and you can read along. Obviously, there are mainstream stories and independent. There's all sorts of different stories mixed in there. We take everything with a grain of salt and we ask questions, and that's what everyone should be doing. None of these stories should be going into the history books without a question mark next to them. And that's how most people feel about mainstream media at this point. So that is part of our job. Now, if you go to our website, you'll see it's very easy to navigate. It is all done by thumbnail. You look for today is Article 5 next. Article 4, nations are meeting now. Once you click on that, you will find every single article, tweet, video, picture, document, and you will also find a whole lot more. Down at the very bottom, you'll see a yellow bar. That is web only or overflow. That is all the stuff that we could not fit into a 2-hour time period. On top of that, over on the right, if you want to support us, we are independent. We do not have any multi-channel network. We don't have anybody to really lift us up when we're down except for you guys. So if you do want to help us, over on the right, all of those links are affiliate links or donation links. Those are all ways you can support us. And then let's bring in my co-internet brother, Dex James. What is going on and how are you doing tonight?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I am doing just fine.
So another thing tonight is a call-in show, and I want to remind you, so we've already had some members, and I encourage those same members to call if you would love to speak out loud, or if you can get the courage up to. There's been multiple military members that after this hit, whatever happened in Poland, there were already reverberations going through the military community of people basically saying that they're either on leave and they're being taken off of leave. They are being told that their base is on a higher alert, and then essentially one said that they are now immediately shipping out. So if I'm assuming we have a lot of military here, we'll be able to quickly kind of debunk that if it's not true. Otherwise, if we have a lot of military here and that is true, without sinking any ships or anything, if you have information that is public, or if it's something that you are allowed to share, then please call in at 224-400-MARF. I would love to see what is actually happening with all of these people watching, sometimes 4,000, 5,000 people, at least even in that just small group, or in the comments of the 40,000 that watch the next day. We would love to find out more about what is actually happening. We are all, we're civilians, and we would love to be able to prepare our families and our friends the best we can. So please help us out in that respect. All right, so remember that is there, and then if we are not live for any reason, make sure to go over to marfooglenews.com/friends. Check out all of our great mods. Our mods are absolutely awesome. They deal with a whole lot down there. Obviously, with 4,000 plus in chat, it's not an easy thing to do. Go check out Bones, CJ Blaze, Jammer1, Lisa R. Hall, PNW Affliction, Ripcrawl Readiness, RGL Harris, Ilea, and Trinity Red or Blue Pill, Hi-Ho Kermit the Frog here. All right, let's get into it. Remember, you can call in. The number is going to be scrolling down below. That is 224400 MARF. That's again 2244006273. And then when you get to our phone tree, make sure to press option 4 and you will get Dex Live. It says that Japan scrambles fighters for Chinese aircraft near Okinawa. Obviously, I've told you we've been told to watch Japan. That was actually just about a week before what happened to Shinzo Abe, the former prime minister. They say that Japan is going to be a crucial part of any WW3, no matter what, just because of how it is laid out and how any of the near-peer adversaries that we would go to conflict with, Japan would be directly involved. Only this time on our side. It says Okinawa Japanese fighter jets scrambled to intercept 3 Chinese aircraft, including a drone near Okinawa on Monday, according to Japan's joint staff. The Japan Air Self-Defense Force, and again, they call it the Self-Defense Force, and this has been a long time since WW2, that they would only use their military for defensive purposes. I've talked about over the last couple of years how Shinzo Abe and others were pushing very hard to try to get them to be an offensive military, and they wouldn't, make it so they wouldn't need a direct attack on them for them to jump in militarily. I feel like that is being set up for what they know and everybody at the top knows is something that is coming. They're trying to set it up so they can jump in and, be in some sort of bigger conflict, even if they are not directly attacked. Because when you look at how, if China does take Taiwan and if China does take the areas, it directly threatens Japan. And it indirectly and directly will affect Japan, and Japan does not like it. It says a Y-9 intelligence gathering aircraft and a Y-9 patrol aircraft on top of a BZK-005 high-altitude reconnaissance drone all flew between Okinawa and Miyako Island, 175 miles to the southwest, a spokesman for the Joint Staff told Stars and Stripes on Tuesday. Sounds to me like they're scouting things out. That's what it seems like to me. As you know, these same kind of reconnaissance planes and things like that, they'll take pictures. They'll take pictures of ports. They'll take pictures of bays. And then they take the Mac, they put them on a old school pinup board, and then they do their little plans. That's exactly what I think. What do you guys think? It says the spokesman declined to provide details of the Self-Defense Force response, including how many and what type of aircraft responded, what time the incidents occurred, or what action the aircraft took in the air. None of the Chinese aircraft entered Japanese airspace, he said. So they went over in their areas, but they did not directly fly over Japan and in the direct line. It says Chinese aircraft rarely fly northbound after flying between the two islands, the spokesman said. However, these aircraft turned north after passing through the Miyako Strait from the East China Sea and then continued on an area off the east coast of Okinawa where the Y-9s flew a box pattern. All 3 aircraft returned by the same route, according to a map accompanying the Joint Staff news release on Tuesday. So they actually responded. They sent up stuff. Why they are not sending or not releasing what they actually responded with, what time it happened, none of these things. Kind of strange. I don't know. Usually you hear, we get these things all the time. The U.S. chasing off Russian craft, chasing off Chinese craft, chasing off all sorts of stuff. And they always, that's not something that they ever kind of conceal, or at least not most of the time. So what do you think is happening here? I'd love to hear it in the comments below. By the way, thank you everybody that has popped in already. Release the Quack, and thank you Sniffles71, Zippy Moons, Vicky K. Thank you for the diamond, and Zippy Moons. Thank you, and thank you for the Ninja Genie over on D-Live. Thankful for every one of you. Prayers to all. Much love. Well, thank you as well. Harvest One, D-Live tonight. Love you guys. I hope everybody who watches this show all the way through. We have so much right now. It's insane. And then humans could face reproductive crisis as sperm count declines. We've talked about this before. We've talked about how, of course, Elon has said that the population is actually in a crisis and possibly at risk. And people go, well, we're overpopulated. How are they saying this? Well, there are sperm counts that are declining. There are birth rates that are all messed up. And then, of course, he used the example, look at the actual ratio of that 8 billion of how many old people with diapers versus young people with diapers. Basically, babies versus old people. And that ratio has been skewed all over the world. In fact, Japan about 10 or 12 years ago passed that point where there was more people in old people diapers than young people diapers, essentially senior citizens. So that is something that happens. And then it says humans could face a reproductive crisis if action is not taken to tackle a drop in sperm count. Researchers have warned after finding the rate of decline is accelerating. That is absolutely terrifying. And most people are going to go, well, what the hell is changing? What is actually going on? Is it because we now have GMO, genetically modified food? What in the heck is happening? One thing that we do know, though, is it's happening. We've talked about all sorts of different things happening in the world that are, very, very noticeable. This is something that essentially we're going off of the stats and data. It says a study published in the journal Human Reproduction Update based on 153 estimates from men who were probably unaware of their fertility suggests that the average sperm concentration fell from an estimated 101.2 million per ml to 4.49 0 million per ml, which again, that sounds like a lot, but it's not. Between 1973 and 2018, a drop of 51%. Another thing that has dropped is testosterone in men. In fact, men's natural testosterone was as much as 50% higher, I want to say 30, 40, 50 years ago. So why are things changing? It's kind of obvious that something has to be different. Why are there all sorts of new things that have come out since we've kind of, globalized food production and done all of these things where they work with genetically modified foods and, fertilizer or pesticides, whatever the heck is doing this. It's pretty scary. So that's why some people at the very top are actually saying something is happening. It makes people wonder if, with all of those people saying we are overpopulated, maybe they possibly thought of ways to do something about that. It's almost like a Twilight Zone show or something, or a Black Mirror episode. As far as I believe, they even made a movie about that where there was basically all men on Earth or something, and they couldn't produce a woman. It's pretty terrifying. I would love to see what everybody is saying about it. It says, wait for it is here, 1 minute to midnight. Soy is a testosterone killer. That's true, and they put soy in a ton of stuff. Most of the cows have passed from heat. Let's see here. Stop getting the jitjicks. The food and water is toxic enough. Yes, that's right. Bart maybe Gitmo. Children of men. Let's see here. This game plan all along lure us into a conflict. Yeah. Soy gives cancer. I haven't seen the stuff on that, but I wouldn't be surprised. And then John Vogt says, watch the movie Children of Men. Maybe that's one of the movies I was thinking of. And then Nancy is no condor. She's a vulture. I know who that's about. Let's see here. I appreciate T-Man. Okay, so if you want to say spooky, you know what else? If you did watch that speech or most of it, because we actually were going to go live at 6, but then didn't realize it was happening at the same time. He was pretty cryptic. He said it's going to get a lot worse. By 2024, you'll see. And he said something. He said you'll see it's going to be much different than it is now. And he said it's going to get worse, much worse. And he said about 2024, and he specifically said that 2024. It's just kind of creepy. And then Greta, the other one, black sheep, terabyte of data flying around in the air all the time. We can't hear it, but maybe the bees can. Well, if the bees weren't missing, along with all of the other insects that are just disappearing from the earth. Look up the windshield theory. That's another thing that I was going to mention with this. There's a lot of weird things happening just in our lifetime, and to think about that is pretty terrifying. Give us a call at 224-400-MARF if you have an opinion on this. Let me know. I'd love to hear it. And then U.S. Navy, 70 tons of missile fuel from Arab Emirates seized. It says the United Arab Emirates, the U.S. Navy said Tuesday that it found 70 tons of missile fuel component hidden among bags of fertilizer aboard a ship bound to Yemen from It said the first such seizure in the country's years-long conflict as a ceasefire there has broken down. The Navy said that the amount of ammonium perchlorate discovered could fuel more than a dozen medium-range ballistic missiles, the same weapons Yemen's Iranian-backed Houthi rebels have used to target both forces allied to the country's internationally recognized government and the Saudi-led coalition that supports them. It says the parent rearming effort comes as has threatened Saudi Arabia, the United States, and other nations over the months-long protests calling for the overthrow of the Republic theocracy. Tehran blames foreign powers rather than its own frustrated population for fomenting the protests, which have seen at least 344 people perished forcefully and 15,000 people arrested amid a widening crackdown on dissent. Basically, you protest, you might get got. Not good. But also it's saying that they're secretly shipping things, and it kind of points out that people are questioning, how country is getting things from other countries. Obviously, they're smuggling things, so it's kind of obvious how they could get their hands on even dirtier, weapons or things going not only out of Iran, but to Iran. All right, and then thanks again, John. John, I appreciate that. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you, Blue Boy Chappie, BNB, and then, of course, the other John from last night. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And we have a lot of people flooding in, so thank you guys. I appreciate that. Make sure to share it out to any of your socials. If you still have Facebooks, make sure to share us out if you can, if you're allowed to still. And then make sure to share us out through Instagram or whatever you have other than YouTube. Thank you, John. Carol McLean, Grace for You Too. Of course, Zenwin AZ, Next Exit, Andrew Golden, Celtic Warrior, Merlin and the Fae Kings, and then the Lifeboat, JT, and Soldiers for Jesus, Tyler. Thank you, and thank you. If you want to call, 224-400-MARF. Again, that's 224-400-6273. And then UKR military intelligence says that Russia lost millions of dollars due to a secret black box project. So, again, with the green shirt, he's like, I'm imitating my boss. Let's see here. The press office of the ministry said that the equipment reduces the offensive potential of the Russian army. It said that the details of the projects are being kept secret. Taking into account that its secret nature, I can't reveal the details of this joint project, but it definitely will affect the combat field. It says, according to our estimates, the project, which we have called Black Box, caused millions of dollars of damage to Russia in October alone. Together with our partners and our other patrons and other UKRs that care, we continue to hinder the enemy's combat abilities. Says that UKR launched a daring attack on Vlad's Black Sea Fleet on October 29th using Hit-Herto unknown remote-controlled sea drones to attack Russian warships. It says 2 ships were thought to have been damaged in the attacks, video of which filmed from the drones later circulated on social media. It says that Zelensky on November 11th launched on the United 24 fundraising platform a campaign to raise money to build the world's first naval drone fleet. Isn't it crazy that they're basically doing GoFundMes or the equivalent for themselves, and on top of the billions of dollars that all of these NATO countries are giving them, all the gear, everything that's getting put there? And it's kind of funny that they did that, considering the money that was given to them. And again, I think more and more of this stuff is going to come out, but apparently they were investing that money in other stuff like crypto. And then, of course, maybe some of it may have been affected by this whole FTX thing that happened. So pretty crazy. Give us a call at 224-400-MARF, which, crypto is easy to go right back to other people or, get sent back to different places, pockets. All right. And then let's see here. It looks like we have a first-time caller. A veteran is calling in, and he's going to talk about the pullback and nuclear conflict, preparing, and others. Okay, so while we get Dan on the phone, it looks like you've got to come into the system, Dan, and then you have to unmute. Well, he is doing that. I just want to remind you, if you don't have a backup for power, we recommend solar because obviously you do not have to keep gallons of gas or even barrels of gas. Most actually can't, especially if you're in an apartment. Or if you can, it can't be much. But what's also great about this is that it is portable. It's a portable system that can actually be linked up to 2 units to power pretty much anything you want. But with just one, it packs a huge punch. This is a UPS system, so it is uninterrupted power supply. So essentially, if the power goes out for any reason, whether that be a bad storm or an earthquake or something, this is going to kick back on. Obviously, most of you have been in a store when you're in a storm or something and the power turns off and then whoop, you hear that backup Jenny going and all of a sudden everything's back up and running. That is what this is capable of. UPS has to be under a certain amount of milliseconds. It's like 10 milliseconds to switch right over to be considered UPS. In fact, the Flex 1500, which is their flagship modular one, that is actually EPS. That's an emergency power system. It's about 30 milliseconds or something along those lines. So this one's actually faster. The Kodiak X2 is also shipping out basically now through January. So again, if you do want to get one sooner than later, if you want something that's all built in one, that's portable, that hooks up to solar panels, that charges, that keeps a charge, and will last decades, then this would be the one. It has over 6,000 charge cycles. Again, that is the big bragging rights on this one. On top of its fast charging. And then, of course, this, you could use it every single day from full to empty for 16 years, and it will still have 80% of its capacity. So it's a really, really, really amazing solar generator. It is much cooler in the fact that it is silent. It doesn't take gas. Nobody's going to hear it from 3 blocks away. And there's very little to no maintenance because there's no running motors. I still believe in having both if you are able to. Most people are picking one or the other. But again, over time, you can try to get yourself something of both, right? The great part about gas-powered is that, of course, as long as you have gas, you have power. The downside, though, is that same thing. If SHTF happens, it's going to be very, very hard to locate fuel, especially if there's a power outage or a grid down scenario. Then it's going to be really, really crappy trying to locate fuel after your stash goes dry. That's where this comes in and vice versa. So make sure to go check it out, marfooglenews.com/energy. Every time that you go over and purchase one, not only are you going to get up to $170 off on certain packages, but you're also going to be helping our channel. We are independent. So thank you for being patient. And, of course, thank you for the ones who not only listen to the ads, but also that purchase stuff through us, because this is, again, we're covering controversial things. We're not getting support from many other places, so we appreciate yours. Thank you, and thank you. marfooglenews.com/energy. But by the way, anything that we do have as an affiliate, we try to go for the best of the best, or at least the best quality and the something we 100% believe in. These are, I would say, in my personal opinion, the best solar generators on the market. Most other people say as well. And again, some of the most innovative products out there. All right, again, check it out, marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY. All right, let's get Dan on the phone, and then we're going to be talking about, of course, the crazy stuff going on in Poland. So, Dan, you're live on Marfoogle News. What is going on, and how are you doing?
Hey, Marf. Good to hear from you, man. Glad to be on the show. Hello to all the Marfia out there. My moniker name, I guess, is Raised Spirit. Sometimes I chat It's very rare. I try to keep my mouth shut. I just listen. Let me tell you a little bit about myself real quick. I'm a Cold War veteran, an OIF veteran, Desert Storm veteran. I've been around.
Thank you for your service.
Was there when the wall came down. I was actually, thank you, appreciate that. I was actually trained way, way back to fight the war that we are fighting now. Let me tell you a couple of things that you're right about, Marv. You keep saying that Russia is using its old stuff and that we haven't seen the best of Russia. We have not. I'm telling you because I saw the best of Russia during the Cold War when we would have Operations Warfighter, Jayhawk, when we would do these maneuvers in Grafenwehr, Hohenfels, Todendorf, the island of Crete. I was there. I saw it. We would lose every time. All American forces, European forces, German forces, French forces, British forces, Canadian forces were wiped out within the first 72 hours of a Russian assault on the European Union. And this was back in 1988. We had a 72-hour or less lifespan. Any of the people that are listening to me right now that are prior service from way back when, they know this. That's why we practice Operation Reforger every 18 months. Operation Reforger is return of forces to Germany. It is the backup plan for when all of our forces in Europe are annihilated. We have to get our backup or our reserve units, everything we have in the States, over to Europe to fight Russia. That's how adequately trained and equipped the Russian army is. You have not seen this. It has not occurred yet. Russia is pulling a rope-a-dope. To use a Muhammad Ali term, it's the pullback in Kherson was not a loss for Russia. It's a strategic advantage. It is a major plus for them. The Donbass River is now to their benefit because they're on the other side of it. They don't have to supply their forces across it. They don't have to worry about troops moving equipment over there. Everything you've been saying, Adam, is completely correct. I can verify it. I mean, I know people, different majors, lieutenant colonels, generals, Schaffner, General Davis, General Vuano, they would all back you up. They would all say, wow, this guy's never been in the military, but he knows exactly what he's talking about. Adam, you're dead on. I have to be real careful what I say because I don't want to get myself in trouble. And I don't want anybody showing up at my door tomorrow. But you are very, very correct, sir, with everything you're telling the people that are listening to your show. You will get to see the full power of the Russian military probably very soon. All you have to do is sit, wait, and be patient, just like Putin is doing. The guy's a master chess player. He speaks perfect English. I think he's a 4th degree black belt, if I remember correctly. He knows what he's doing. The U.S. media, we're getting played like you wouldn't believe. They're telling us what we want to hear because if you don't tell the American people that we're winning in the Ukraine, how do you justify sending billions of dollars of aid over there? You can't. Okay, so you have to tell the public we're winning even though we're losing. Russia's going to win this war. They're going to get exactly what they want, which is resources. There is no point to nuclear war. There is no point to using a tactical nuke in the UKR. The reason for that is you wipe out the resources wherever you use it. It doesn't just, there's no justification for it. It's a last ditch effort. Even during the Cold War, we knew this. No one was going to push that button. So I think you can sleep a little safer at night if you know that. It would take a real lunatic to do it. And
so, but they would, like I've said, I think that, you know, everybody thinks of World War III as the end of the world, but in reality, it would be everything else before nuclear. And it would be all of the conventional forces, all of their T-90s, all their advanced tanks, all of, I mean, they're not even taking in their standardized rifles. They're not even taking the rifles that they usually use. They're taking in 80-year-old rifles. It's common sense.
You're correct. You've said it over and over again, and everybody has seen it. And you're right. The mainstream media is not going to push that narrative. They're not going to tell everybody what's really going on. You know it. I believe everybody that listens to your show knows it. Thank God. And hopefully everybody that listens to your show is prepped for it. I'm not a prepper, but because of your show and because of my military history, I've got enough food for a year. I have, 10-watt radios that I know I can get a 5-mile clear, communications out of. I have a clean water source that's easily filterable on my property. So I have an unlimited supply of, water that I can filter, even supply to my neighbors if I have to. But another thing is, I work in San Antonio, Texas, so I'm easily an hour away or more, sometimes up in Spring Branch. Sometimes I cross Texas up to, Waxahachie, Midlothian, Arlington, Dallas, Fort Worth, or even out west to Big Bend, down south to the King Ranch area. I can be, up to 4 or 5 hours away from home. So I ordered through your EMPs affiliates. I got the EMP shield for one of my trucks, my work truck. And I hear a lot of your people in the chat talk about, well, if we get hit with an EMP, we're not going to be able to use that thing because all these cars are going to be blocking the road. That's not true. Typically, your first reaction when your car goes dead is you're going to pull over to the left or to the right. You're going to park that vehicle on the shoulder, get out, and try and figure out what happened to it. Everyone will do that. Clearing most of the road, you will make it home. If you have the courage and the tenacity to do so, you may actually have to make your own roads. In some cases, you may have to go off-road in your car or in your truck, drive over curbs, drive over whatever's in front of you. I hate to say that.
Let me ask you this.
After the first 15, 20 minutes, people are going to figure out what's going on. You've got the only working vehicle. You better be ready and prepared to do whatever it takes to get home to your family.
Well, another thing, do you know if an EMP happens, and I should know this, but I have always had this thought that if an EMP happened and your car was running, just like if you have a stick shift and if your starter is out or something, you can push start it. I kind of just side wonder now, can a push start vehicle start? And then two, would a car that's already on and running, would it die during an EMP? Or would it just not be able to run again after it stops? After it stops, the starter and all of the electronics would be fried. But if it's actually going, will it kill cars that are currently driving? Because like you said, if your car just dies out of nowhere, I've even been on the freeway and you coast to a stop, you can still coast and usually, like you said, people pull over. But if it was everybody's at the same time, I still think there would be some blockages. But yeah, I get what you're saying. I wonder if it can even, because most people would drive home and then park or drive as far as they can after it hits and not realize what's going on.
Right. Now, remember when the Teak test went off, and was it 1952 out in the atoll? It fried circuits, 1,000 miles away. So if you're driving a vehicle and an EMP goes off, most likely it's going to kill your vehicle. If your vehicle is already off and it's not protected, either way, if it's protected while it's on or protected while it's off, it's protected. Protection is protection, whether it's off or on. It should work. Now, if you are not protected, then you're just SOL. I mean, you're up the creek with everybody else. You'll be standing on this side of the road wondering how you're going to get home to your loved ones, and they're going to be wondering, what happened to you. And after about 20 to 30 minutes, people are going to figure out that, hey, it was an EMP. That guy has the only working vehicle on the road that they can see. They're going to want your vehicle. So do your best to make your way home as quickly as possible. And if you work, like I said, I work in San Antonio, but I live out in the country. It takes me at least an hour to get home. That gives me at least a 30-minute head start before chaos kicks in. So to the people that made that EMP shield, thank you very much, because you could have potentially already saved my life, because I have the courage to do what it takes to get myself home.
Well,
I hope the rest of the people in the Mafia have that same courage. I would think that most of them do, because they're smart enough to listen to your show.
Well, they say that the first 3 hours and the first 24 hours really is going to be really important after any major event. Someone actually said that any car with an ODSB or something after 1996 will have serious software issues. The ECM will be fried. Some people said that the power brakes would not work. All sorts of bad things as far as the older cars. As far as like being that first day, and preppers do think about it. And you said you're not a prepper, but now you kind of are. And most people said, well, it sounds like a prepper. If you have your food, you have water, you have EMP shield, you're prepped. But as far as that first day is going to be really important. We are assuming in our lifetime, at the very least, if not in the next couple of years, in our lifetime, and I'm talking about anyone that's 50 or younger, you will most likely see another world conflict. It's pointing that way. Unless something drastically changes, we're either going to see a WW3 and or we might see both, and a complete restructure of who is running us, who is in charge of us. So I would just think of it as like this is going to happen eventually. Prepare for the worst and hope for the best. That's what most preppers do. They don't want these things to happen, but at some point you get so prepared, you're like, okay, bring it on. I know there's a lot of people in chat that say, well, I wish they would just do it already. Some people are like rooting for the end of the world because they want to see it. And I'm not one of those, but I do think that when you are prepared, you feel less afraid, and it makes everything a lot better. I really do appreciate you calling in, and I thank you for your service, Dan. And again, it's your first time call. Don't make it your last, okay?
Hey, thanks a lot, Marf. I appreciate you and Dex, the mods, the whole Foogle fam. You guys are all great, every one of y'all.
And
you all have a good night. Take care. This is Dan Rodriguez out from San Antonio.
Dan, let me ask you one question before you go. Do you think that we will have a conflict before 20?
He hung up at him.
Oh, no. That's too bad. Well, Dan, tell me in the chat, do you think we're going to have a conflict before 2024? Let me know. I'd love to see it. You said Rising Spirits is his screen name? Is it Rising? Rising something. If you guys remember, trivia time. All right, and then Dex, if you do want to pop in, I know that you're lining up. Looks like on deck we actually have. Let's see here. We're gonna be popping. Nope, it doesn't. Okay, I just closed it. Well, Dex, again, if you want to pop in, if you can, maybe get the caller on pause for a second, because this is probably the biggest thing that has happened. And if you did not see the video over on Marfoogle News, it's short, it's less than 10 minutes, and you can share it with friends and family that don't know what's going on. I think it is incredibly serious what just happened. A day after President B just basically tells us like, oh, there's no chance. After talking with G, I don't think there's any imminent threat of them invading. I mean, like, what? Why would he possibly say that? Why would he come out of an in-person meeting with G? What happened? Did they shake hands? Did they spank butts or something? I don't get it. Was G just like super charming and was like, oh, no, we're not going to do it. We don't need that stinky plant. We don't care about world domination. And President B is like, are you my wife? I don't know what happened, but I do know that I don't trust President B. That's for damn sure. I don't trust any of them. And now, a day later, like we said, this is the calm before the ... Poland ends up getting hit 50 miles inside the border. It said that Poland said early Wednesday that a Russian-made missile fell in the eastern part of the country, killing people in a blast that marked the first time since the invasion of UKR that Russian weapons came down in a NATO country. How did it end up 50 miles over in the wrong direction? Some said that they thought that it was a defensive missile going up. And again, it is the same time as Vlad actually did a barrage towards all of these places, right? A lot of people are worried about a Fantastic Freddy type event happening where, oh, they're hitting us, send something up. Dex, go ahead.
Well, it's interesting the way they're phrasing it. They're not coming right out and saying it was Vlad's. They're saying it was made by him. They're not saying it was his, even though he was the one barraging UKR with like 80 different missiles and rockets at that moment. But they're not coming out and actually saying it was his. They're saying it was made by his. At least that's at the time of this reporting. This stuff is changing every hour. But it also, that sort of leaves it open to say, okay, well, if it was made by him, but it may not be him, or you're not willing to say it was him, then who else could it have been? And that sort of also makes you wonder if there was somebody else involved or something else that was involved, and what motivation would they have to do that? If you think about the country that is there that has all the motivation to bring NATO in, but NATO won't come in, maybe that's one of the ways to do it. But I'm not saying that's what has happened. But it certainly is interesting that the country of Poland is not just coming right out onto the bandwagon and saying from the get-go, oh, yes, this was Vlad. He did this to us.
And it's extreme. All of these events that have happened over the last year, of course, the pipeline and all of these other events. And, after a month or 2 months, things started getting shaky. If there's no confirmation, by the way, has Vlad spoke on this? Has he said that it was an accident?
They denied it. Initially, they denied it. I don't know if there's been an update, but as of 4 or 5 hours ago, in one of their statements, they said it was not them.
We covered this 11 minutes after it physically happened, or at least after it was the first source that was they said they were the breaking source on that. And it said that we were like 12 minutes after when we got the information, at least. And right away we said, watch, Vlad's going to deny it. I mean, it's like there's a force just pushing us towards WW3, and there's no way around it. It's not a good thing. But maybe Vlad saw that. Maybe when they hacked all of the UKR and US plans, maybe they saw that. Maybe that's why they partly did these pullouts, and maybe that's why they're saving their best for last, because they know if think about this, just hypothetically, if they're not all shaking hands and kicking back boots and doing weird symbology thing in the background, hypothetically, look at how much the entire world has basically humiliated Putin, put him down, said he's the biggest piece of crap. In the beginning, we kind of said, well, this guy was part of the W and the E and the F. He was part of the young leaders. He was picked, basically somebody was like, that kid's going right up to the top, right, of this group across the planet, right? And we said, well, if that's the case, are they dumping him? Is this like, the men's club, but they're like, we don't like him anymore, so we're just going to ditch him. He's going to be the scapegoat for everything. And by the way, he's a bad guy, so it's pretty easy to pin whatever you want on somebody who everybody knows is a bad guy, right? Or at least even the people that are, going totally against the U.S. are still like, but he's still a bad guy. There's nobody that's going to say, oh, he's a great guy. He's just big heart, lovely, lovely gentleman. Everyone that says it, they go, well, I'm not a Russian supporter or anything, but, he's a bad guy. But a lot of people have questions about what is happening right now, and you can't even ask. You can't even ask in some places because it's something very sus is going on. But if you've heard our predictions, then just watch. It's going to be incremental. It's going to be subtle, and then not so subtle. And then it's going to be in our face. I think that T-Man was cryptically telling us it's going to get much worse than this. My personal thought is everything that I have thought over the last 4 years, it's really scary to see it all coming true. And it's not something you want to be right about. It's not something you want to pat yourself on the back for. These things are happening, just like when CV happened and we had this gut feeling and we knew to tell you guys, and then all of a sudden it happened and we're like, why are we right on this? This is horrible. But the way we got that is really common sense patterns and seeing what the exercises are for, looking at what they're exercising for, and then you see the real event. It's scary how much these in preparation for kind of exercises and drills, how much they coincide with the real event. And right now, they're drilling for WW3 across the planet. They are pushing politically, and in the background, everything is going in the wrong direction. And everybody wants it just to turn around and say, oh, it was all for this, it was all for that. But there's plenty of stuff they can juice out of this. They can basically change the entire world with this event. Dex, go ahead.
Well, and as you and I were talking before the show, the message was, the president offers his full support into the quote unquote investigation, right? Now the headline is...
What did I say, by the way?
What's that?
What did I say in response to you when I texted you back?
You said investigation? Like, really?
They don't know? Like...
Yeah, they don't know. Exactly.
How many people were firing missiles at the same time? Like, it should be pretty cut and dry.
So he has his quick meeting with everybody because he happens to be a G7, right? So he's got enough of the leaders there, or a handful of them there. So he has his meeting. Then he gets on the phone with the president of Poland. Now it is JB offers Poland full U.S. support after Warsaw blames Vlad for the strike. So now it is officially blaming Vlad. So all of that has transpired over the last 3 to 4 hours. It went from, Poland saying we're not sure who did it to we have a meeting with JB. I'm going to thoroughly support your investigation to within an hour later, after meeting with everybody at G7, coming back, meeting with Poland over the phone, to then coming out saying, yes, Vlad did it.
You see what I mean? They're basically, this is, and it's not horrendous. A lot of, I don't hope this is the event that does it, but, a lot of us have been thinking, what horrible event is going to get us all into WW3, right? We're all thinking of a Fantastic Freddy, a 2001 type event, or a Harbor kind of event. We don't want to see that. So if this is it, well, I guess that's a good, there's a silver lining somewhere. If this is what gets us involved, I don't think it is, because it's not big enough. And it's not big enough to get everybody swayed into supporting this thing. People go, well, they don't care if the U.S. or if the people support the war. It does help. In fact, they do want people to support it. They want to minimize the friction. They want to minimize pushback. And if they can play mind games with you and get you to actually support it and push for it, and then spread to all your friends and family you want to push for it, and so much so that you want to enlist, then of course, yes, they want that instead of you out at the Capitol protesting with millions of people. They don't want that. They want you protesting to go. They want you out there saying, we need to go right now and defend them. And people will. That's what's sad. Some big event happens. There's all sorts of sus events around it, and all sorts of weird, we found 18 perfectly, crispy, brand new IDs right at the base of it. In molten lava, but somehow they were floating on top of the molten lava. So we know exactly who did this. You get my drift. It's a little weird. It's a little weird. It's a little weird. And then power outages in Moldova after Vlad strikes in UKR. Right now, as far as there are some Fugel family, and there's actually some pretty good regular people that are just streaming, and they said, there's huge power outages all across the country, which is, expected. Going back to our last caller, Dan, he's saying that, they're probably losing way worse than what they say they are, but who knows, again. But as far as the power outages, it looks like that is at least from, outside of mainstream being confirmed by independents and journalists and all sorts of different people that are totally against mainstream. And they're saying they don't have power. It says Moldova reported massive power outages across the country on Tuesday after Russian military strikes on UKR's energy infrastructure. So their grid is actually affecting everyone around because it's kind of like, probably a very similar system where all of these power lines, you knock out a central station and then everybody that is connected to that same grid, including, looks like over the border in Moldova. It says, following Russia's bombardment against the UKR energy system in the last hour, one of the power lines that ensures the transport of electricity for our country has been disconnected. Infrastructure Minister Andrei Spinu said in a statement, this has led to massive power outages across the country. Now, mind you, Moldova has been mentioned as one of the areas that they would go in and start taking Baltic states back. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but again, that's something that has been talked about. In fact, Dex, didn't we? In Moldova is one of the places that actually handed out, anti-radiation pills or the iodine tablets and all that. That was Moldova, right?
Oh, yes, it is. And they also have Vlad's troops are inside a territory within the middle of Moldova due to historical issues. Yep,
that's right. So wild times, wild times. And then I want to say thank you, Man Overboard Media, a.k.a. Mom. Man Overboard Media, I'm just kidding. I would not want the world to annihilate alternate hemispheres. The two greatest Christian majority nations will not kill one another. It's all a game. Chill out. Paratroopers, Zekin tanks, okay. An errant fancy Molotov, meh. An errant fancy Molotov. Two greatest majority white nation will not take one each other out. It's all a game. Well, very well. I sure hope it is. But in real wars, do people not die? That's another thing. So it may be a game, and here's my thoughts on this. How often have the elite played games with real people and real outcomes and real civilians and the crap on the bottom of their shoes, the sheep? How often do those sheep get cold? I mean, I guess would you be stating that they care about us and they care if we live? I don't know. Again, but thank you for your opinion. I appreciate that. And thank you for the support as well. Thank you, Man Overboard Media. Let's Go B ran done. There was a towel snapping event between J and X. Joe and G. Let's go Brandon. B Randon. I like how you spelled that there. So you're actually saying that, I don't know, because there could be video on Twitter. I haven't seen it, but do they? Was it like that? And they were giggling? I didn't see it yet. I heard there was a giggling thing, but I didn't see it. And then I thought maybe deep fake for sure. Hey, don't panic. There's only an Article 4 complaint. 2 Polish were perished if were killed by a rogue missile. Only an Article 5 NATO complaint can lead to a war with the East. So I don't know if that's from Google or what, but so right now that's changed in just the last 15 minutes even. So as far as the discussions, that's kind of what Article 4 is those discussions. It's meetings to discuss it. So we're not claiming anything else is happening, but they're discussing it right now. And now they are saying that something was going to happen. So, and then MT, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Will1776, $5 for your Lego habit. I think I smell an A-fall. And then Charity Sullivan, support and take care of our vets. Thank you, Charity Sullivan. I appreciate that. And Steve McQueen, thank you for subscribing. Swear, I think we have like 4 Steve McQueens, but thank you. Appreciate that. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just looking up something. Apparently, Romania does receive power from UKR. Romania is right next to Moldova. Moldova is sort of tucked in right in between UKR and Romania. It's sort of like a very small country right in between the two, sandwiched in there. And the only reason I bring that up is Romania is part of NATO, and while Moldova is not. And I know that they have talked about in the past Article 5 and other protections for NATO countries were things like critical infrastructure. So if this type of event continues to happen around these, the electrical infrastructure, and it spreads into NATO countries, that could also be another area or avenue that they could leverage. Just like you see here with Moldova. Now, they won't leverage that because it's not NATO. But if it was Romania or Poland or anyone else, they could. And I was just looking at the maps and looking at information, and they actually do bring power in from UKR to Romania as well, just like they do to Moldova. Not a lot, but enough.
Yeah, and it says in NATO's 73-year existence, Article 4 had only been triggered 6 times prior to Thursday, according to the alliance's website. So Article 4 is a complaint. That's exactly what it is. And only 2 people dying. 1 person dying is enough to start a war. It started at least, I want to say, over a dozen wars. 1 person dying is enough. 1 U.S. soldier dying is enough. 1, spy being poisoned is enough. 1, civilian being taken out is enough to start a war. That doesn't mean it's going to. Again, the one thing that I get is when people say chill out, nobody's crazy here. Like, nobody's excited. What we are doing, though, is we're letting people know this is serious. And if you follow my channel for 4 years and not know that we haven't called this, then it's pretty insane to not be like kind of crazy about this, because it's like we called this step by step. And we're not psychics. It's with the Foogle fam and everybody seeing and following all the little tiny events. Just as like the flight radar people, they can tell you all sorts of information about what is going on right now because they're watching every single flight. I'm not somebody who spends 24/7 on there. But if somebody who does can, when they tell me some stuff, I'm like, okay, whoa. Because they're following it 24/7. We follow the news 24/7. We're looking at what is Ganda, what's not, what actually happens later. We archive this stuff so we can go back and say, okay, well, they said this, and then it actually happened. Or they said this, and it ended up being a nothing burger. We're starting to see the pattern of what ends up not becoming a nothing burger and what ends up being a burger. A yummy burger. But absolutely horrible for everybody else. Tasty, but only for the evil people. I think I explained that right. Dex, go ahead.
Well, and Adam, one other thought I'd like to add, similar to what you're saying, is that just because an Article 5 or any type of event happens against a NATO country doesn't mean it's an immediate, automatic, full-on war. It just means there's a response. They have the right to respond in defense. And so when you think about the things that have happened in the past, when a country does something to another country, they typically give a like-kind back response. Now, the question then comes, does it go anywhere from there? So, for example, if this building was hit by missiles and it turns out it was Vlad that did it and they want to respond, more than likely they'll probably, take out or shoot something, one of their bases, or do something in return for that. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to go to the next level. Now, if Vlad then turns around and says, well, I don't like that, so now I'm going to do this to you, then of course you'll start to get this tit for tat escalation. But if it's sort of like they talked about cyber, it's like if we find that Vlad cybers one of the NATO countries, then we will respond immediately back. Well, that means that if one of the NATO countries gets a major cyber hack from, especially around infrastructure, from Vlad, then you can bet that the NATO countries themselves, one of them will turn around and do a major cyber hack back on them. It's not like they're just going to do something that's not like kind. And that's typically how it is at least presented. It doesn't mean it always works that way. It doesn't mean that everybody has to, say, well, we're going to take out 2 people exactly because that's what you did. That's not how it necessarily works, but it's typically a response. And that response doesn't have to mean it will be a full-scale conflict. But I can tell you, it doesn't make it easy to keep the peace. That's for sure.
No, it doesn't. And all of these things that are playing out, these are all things that were speculation before, and now it's just slowly happening, one after another, after another, after another. It's not like we just started reporting this a week ago. We've talked about this 3-4 years ago and said that this is what we look for and this is what, what's happening, and now it's happening. And of course, there's a lot of pushback. People, the closer you get to war, the more pushback of people that are going to say it's not. It's just my opinion. Again, I appreciate everybody's opinions, but I do think that we are very close to World War III. And when you say World War III, it's a stigma. There's a stigma attached, and people go, nah, no, it's not. They think, oh, that's way over exaggerating. When I said that there was going to be a pandemic, they said, whoa, oh, sure there is. I visited the first patient. The first patient in Seattle. I went to the hospital. I did drone footage. I covered it like I was covering the and by the way, I don't do much like on the spot stuff. I knew this was going to be big. I knew CV was going to be big. I went to the first place where they had people held in campers. I knew that was going to be big. I knew it. And I covered and 4 months before that, we saw all of these drills, all these exercises, and we had police doing, mask drills in downtown Seattle, and people saying they came through and it looked like they were planning for something, and put in all of my thumbnails. You can go back and see. It's like we knew that was going to happen because of all of the events that happened. All of the drills and the simulations they were running, and those simulations, looking back in hindsight, were almost identical to the actual event. And we said, something's not right here. Why are they preparing for stuff? Why are they ordering extra stuff? It was just very creepy. We're seeing the same thing again with this. So we're just letting people know this is what we see in our opinion. That doesn't mean people have to believe us. In fact, most people are not. Most people aren't going to believe us ever, right, until it happens. And then by then, what are they going to do when there's no internet? And they're going to go, I gotta comment on Marf's channel when the internet comes back on and say, hey, you called it. Russian fighter jets can't control the air over UKR, and Russian attack helicopters are paying for it. Again, most of these stories, it's like, hoorah, we're winning, they suck, they have no skills whatsoever. Featuring an unusual coaxial rotor design and side-by-side crew seating arrangement, it has been on the front line involved in the thickest fighting more than any other Russian attack helicopter since Vlad's attack began in February. Because it's the most active, the Ka-52 also appears to be taking most of the losses for Vlad's helicopters. Dex, is the Ka-52 the newest? Is that the baddest and the best of their fleet? Just curious if there's any, if that is actually a good helicopter, if that's old or...
I was actually looking that up before you asked me.
That's
so
funny.
Give me another minute. I'm going to find the list of their attack helicopters.
Attack helicopters, Jinx. We finish each other's... We finish each other's... It's almost like we finish each other's... Each other's... Awkward? Designed by the highly regarded Kamov helicopter company, the Ka-52, known as Russia's the Alligator, and called the Hokum B by NATO, is an improved variant of the Ka-50 Black Shark helicopter, which was introduced in 1995. The Ka-52 entered service in 2011. It has a ceiling of 18,000 feet and a top speed of 186 miles per hour. In addition to coaxial rotors, which eliminate the need for a tail rotor, it has ejection seats for its pilots, both rare features for helicopters. So actually, it sounds like it's pretty badass, especially since it doesn't have a tail rotor. So it's one of those crazy ones you see, like toys, G.I. Joe toys, and they don't look real. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, it looks like that's probably their most current. It's, like you said, based off the Ka-50, but it looks like it's their most current. One of their most current and probably the most prevalent.
And we're We're so close. It's almost like we can finish each other's
sentences.
Yes. Thank you.
I was having my head down in research. Sorry.
It's okay. Yeah. I'll remember that next time you go up for a high five. And just a reminder, if you haven't already, make sure to go over to marfooglenews.com/prep. If you don't have long-term survival food, this is a good and affordable way to get your food up in bulk for long-term survival food that lasts 25 plus shelf years. Again, this is short and long-term survival food. And again, you can also get all sorts of different packages up to $250 off on the 3-month supply. That is at marfooglenews.com/prep. Thank you guys for supporting us. And again, they have iodine tablets and all sorts of other good stuff as well if you want to check out the rest of their site. But their main stead is their food. So go check it out. It's a great deal as far as what you get for the dollar. marfooglenews.com/prep. And then UKR asks U.S. for big drones hoping to overcome opposition. It says UKR has made a new appeal for the United States to supply it with powerful drones and anti-drone missiles, hoping Washington will reverse its previous rejection as Russia increasingly turns to kamikaze drones and attacks civilian infrastructure. With Moscow's invasion in its 9-month, UKR Defense Minister Oleksiy Reznikov in November's second letter requested 4 MQ-1C Gray Eagle unmanned aerial systems, or drones, and in a separate document asked for the first time for a counter-drone missile, according to a document seen by Reuters. And people familiar with the request said the drones, which cost about $10 million each, and the counter-drone AGM-114L, or Longbow, would bolster UKR's civilian air defense and help counter Russia's growing use of made kamikaze drones far from the front lines. And the extra $1 or $2 million for each one of them can go right back into someone's pocket. All right, let's get our next caller on. It looks... would you like to introduce our next caller?
Well, yes. Let me get them on. Hang on. And our next caller, Adam, is Gifted Grace, and I'm trying to get Gifted Grace on right now. There we go.
Gifted Grace, you're live on Marfoogle News. What's going on? Gifted Grace.
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, hey. First time caller, Gifted Grace. What's going on? It looks like you're seeing some stuff in Tennessee.
Yes, sir, I am. I just want to say first off, hi. Hi, Foogle family. Number one, I saw a chopper over the top of us. We live close to Arnold Air Force Base in Tennessee, so it's really just a test site, and there's not much that goes on there, but that I know of. Anyways, there's a lot that goes on, but I'm sure. But we don't ever have planes fly over the top of us or anything like that. And we had a helicopter here about 2 weeks ago that was doing a grid pattern over the top of our area. It was strange. And then yesterday, we had 2 very low-flying mystery jets, which I don't know what they were, but they were very low-flying and rocked the whole house and had the neighborhood out. They were already gone.
Now, did you see them or did you just feel them and hear them?
We felt them and heard them, unfortunately.
So
it's not something that happens around here.
Well, and by the way, everybody, when they say that, in a lot of us, if you live around a base, you see it all the time. See, they're just exercising. It depends on area, because if you are not around a base and if you're somewhere that's, remote or something like that, then it's much more interesting when you have that kind of stuff happen, because they're not on a normal flight route. They're nowhere near a base. That's when it does matter, because they could be doing some sort of practice for something that's unusual or something that's different. If I see a jet at this point, I'm used to jets now that I realize like I'm on a kind of a path. But still, we've been seeing so much air traffic as far as low Chinooks. Just the other night, the gentleman called in and a stealth bomber flew above him. I mean, now at tree level. I mean, like, that's just weird. I don't think anybody can say it's not, especially when they're flying so low they rattle your house. But yeah. So as far as Tennessee goes, yeah, if you're not used to seeing that, it's freaky. What did your neighbors think about it? Did you ever talk to any of them?
I haven't had a chance to know, but I'm pretty sure that if there's anyone that has seen them, that saw them fly over, it would be great to know what kind they were.
I was just wondering if they were stealth bombers. It's like 4 different people have said after that call that there's stealth bombers flying all around us, and I don't know why. Obviously, maybe they're just moving stuff around. Maybe they're just doing drills. I don't know. Go ahead.
Well, with us being with us having the Air Force Base here, it's more of a test site than it is anything else. I've never seen anything literally ever come out of there except, well, not even a train. They've got a trainway that goes in there, but there's no active train that anybody knows of. And yes, there is an airport near here, but it's in Tullahoma. It's not even at the air base. But they don't fly anything out of there, and we never have stealth bombers. We never have bombers of any kind, let alone helicopters doing grid patterns over the top of literally grid patterns over the top of us. For whatever reason, they would be doing that. And I just thought it was really interesting. That and the fact that the Walmart right down the road from that test site has been doing a lot of renovations in the last 2 years since everything began. And one of the things that they added was some interesting front offices that are all boxed off and you can't really see into, and an office right in the front of the building, and some cattle gates to herd people in and out. But they did use it one time, but then they just kind of took them down when we were doing all the covering up and whatnot. But I don't know, I just think it's really interesting with all the Walmarts that are shutting down all around and all the different food stores. I think they said that there's a whole list of them. They said there was only a few of them shut down, but there was actually, like, I guess, hundreds of them. Walmart, Kroger, Aldi's, a few others that were doing the same thing. And they've already proven that they'll use them for detention centers. Oh, I don't know if I was say that one.
And they did. And by the way, there's one that and what's really kind of interesting to me is that these buildings don't get replaced by like malls, or they don't get replaced by another business. Like they'll put a Baby Gap in there or something. The one that closed down by us, the closest one that was part of this nationwide close down of the Walmarts was the Factoria location, and that was one of the nicest Walmarts, and that was what was weird, is because there are ghetto Walmarts around Seattle, around the area, and then there was nicer ones. Factoria is kind of I wouldn't say it's yuppie, but it's a older suburban kind of neighborhood, and it's it's more money. It's where all the Bellevue people work, the people that work at Microsoft and wherever else. And so for them to close that one down, I thought that was really weird. So you're in Tennessee and you're seeing the same thing all over the country. They're having these close downs, and then each one kind of locally told us like, oh, they're only shutting down 3. That's what I read. And then we get all these people saying, no, more than that are closing down, like a lot of Walmarts, a lot of Kroger's, Fred Meyer's. All these big box stores are closing down, and specifically they're the ones that, we know have worked with the U.S. Gov. But yeah, who knows? Very strange. That I do say, because it's almost been a year and they still haven't put anything else in it. It's just like you would think with a rent like that some big business would come in there, a Big Five or something, and immediately, swap that up. But I guess the economy's bad too. But yeah, good point though.
It would be interesting to find out how many of those Walmarts that got closed down in those bigger places are close to interstates.
Oh, yeah. This one's like right off the interstate, like right off, like a block, 2 or 3 blocks. If you're familiar with that Factoria Walmart, it's right by I-90, I think, or no, 405 or I-90. It's off both. So yeah, that would be interested. But I think a lot of them are, though, because they're huge stores. They want you to swoop off the freeway and swoop in, but I don't know. But very interesting call. Thank you for letting us know. Go ahead.
Oh, well, you're fine. I just wanted to mention one more thing. With all the factories that produce our edibles that are being torched here recently, I thought it was interesting that my husband works for, if I'm allowed to say it or not, General Mills. They've got a weird clause over there where you can't take pictures inside and whatnot. Yes, espionage is big in the food market. But they have been putting in a market, or they're talking about it, and they've also been doing a lot of other weird construction around there. And one thing I thought was interesting about that, and the only reason I bring it up is because with the line that we have in our economy, it seems that the bigger companies, like the General Mills here is the central hub, so it's kind of where they're pushing all of their stuff to this one. And if they're going to open a market in there that sells things like groceries, things like paste and all of that, I'm just wondering if they're really planning, if this isn't more of a depression dressed as a recession.
Oh, well,
getting very closer to it, more close than we understand.
I'm pretty sure it is a depression, and I think they just wanted to paint it pink and say it's not happening. I actually think it is, but I'm not a financial expert.
I personally do too.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that it's a lot, and it's getting worse than anybody thinks, and they of course always want things to just kind of keep going as normal, and they want us to all just keep paying our bills and working our 9-to-5s and make sure that we're just being busy little bees and don't worry about anything. So thank you for calling in. And again,
well,
I agree.
Just don't forget about the sweeter side of prepping, because we can have all the food we want and we can do all the things we want as far as all this goes, but nobody's guaranteed tomorrow, even in the best of times. So just keep your prayer knees solid and keep your eyes on Jesus for the rest of this ride, because nobody knows how long that's going to be. And I love you all very, very much, and I hope not to be a first-time caller.
All right. Well, thank you.
Guys, later.
All right. And again, don't be a stranger. She even knew my line. Thank you. And it looks like our caller dropped. I thought it was Justin. Justin, I hope you get back in. I was looking forward to that. And then Texas Rob 49, thank you so much. Let's see here. What's up, Adam, Dex, Mods, and Foogle fam? Hey, thank you so much for multiple diamonds over on D-Live. Thank you, and thank you. And Elon Musk ridicules geniuses he's been firing en masse for criticizing him. And, of course, saying geniuses sarcastically. First of all, you see the people that are actually criticizing him, and they're super biased on their profile. They're just like super the opposite. And no, they should not be fired for saying this or that. But if they were at any other company, that would be fine. But who talks trash about their boss? It doesn't matter what side they're on. Who does that? Unless they are trying to get fired or they're about to quit. People don't have, people in Walmart don't go, they don't get on the radio and go, F off, I'm quitting, and then expect to come back the next day at 5 a.m. They just quit. If they're going to tell off their bosses, or if anyone, and I'm sure most of you have probably at one point or another left a job where you're like, don't like you guys, see you later, never coming back. You don't do that and then don't expect to get fired. Unless you, I mean, it's be one thing, I don't know. Where do you guys fall on this? Some of the things that he got, I could see one of them hurt Elon's ego. Like when he said, this is wrong, basically just saying this is incorrect. But when you have a CEO of a company that big saying something and then a developer calling him out like that, it's kind of crazy. Dex, when you do get a caller back in and just blink in, I would love for you to pop in, if not on this one, on that next one, the Texas story. So just blink at me when you are available. But it says Twitter owner Elon Musk ridiculed employees he's been firing for publicly criticizing him, sarcastically referring them to as geniuses in a tweet. Musk mocked the staffers in response to a tweet from the Options Flow platform Unusual Whales, which cited reporting from tech news site Protocol. Elon has fired numerous employees who were critical of him on Twitter and the company's Slack, according to Protocol. It says, I would like to apologize for firing these geniuses. Their immense talent will no doubt be of great use elsewhere, Musk replied. It says on Monday, Musk axed a Twitter engineer who publicly accused Musk of making a false claim about the platform. Since then, a number of Twitter staffers have criticized Musk either on Twitter or in the internal Slack channels. These employees, according to tech writer Casey Newton and others, have been swiftly fired. We regret to inform you that the employment has been terminated immediately. Now, one of them actually showed their picture of their MacBook. And by the way, a lot of these people are literally sitting at home doing their developing work. Like, they have it cush. Cush job. I guess, like, why even respond to the owner of your company? I don't know. I guess I'm like, you're getting paid $10, $12, $15, $20,000 a month. Wouldn't we all just absolutely love to have a job like that and sit at home and be able to develop or do whatever you do, and be with your family instead of being at the office? Again, the ones that are getting fired, these are mostly remote people that are working from home for absurd amounts of money. So I don't know. I see it both ways. I see it like, why would you fire somebody for, criticizing? But why would you criticize in the first place? Dex, go ahead.
There's also a lot of differences in the style of management and the expectations. And by the way, this is mostly, like you said, they're developers, they're software guys sitting behind a computer, right? They employ quite a bit of those people that write code. That's what these big tech companies need, is software developers. But there's a big difference in the style of management and the expectations of the developers at, say, Tesla, where Elon would have brought in his people, so to speak, to sort of come in and take over and at least help him guide his way through this, and the style that was embedded at Twitter. It's like night and day difference. One is very rigid, fast, production oriented. The other is very, emotional, etc., soft, fuzzy feeling of experience, right?
Bias,
right.
And by the way, Elon.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about just their political views or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, just the style is night and day different. So a lot of the people that got axed probably didn't fit the mold or didn't like the mold that was coming in, right? And so I can see that as a big part of it. And when this goes down, it was the people were getting notified that they lost their jobs at like some of the worst possible times. Now, that's just the way they did things.
No. Like, they were getting severance. So I get it. Some people say, well, now they're not going to have money for Christmas. He said that he gave like twice the amount for all of the people. They got twice the length of time for severance packages. So they have like 6 months to find a job, or I think, and I want to say it was either 6 months, and in some cases he was giving 18 months severance packages for some folks. depending on their
I
position.
think they were required 30 days in California, and he was giving at least 60.
Yeah.
Which was double. So that would get them through the end of the year. But these people also make a ton of money too. So like you said, these are software developers. They're not cheap. They're very expensive.
But also
employees.
he interviewed every single employee for Tesla, whether they were a janitor, he would have them come into his office, or that's what he says he did, right? So it's like from his hand-picked team to this company where he took over hundreds of employees or however many. It's like I would expect him to just go, you're not going to work, you're not going to work, you're not going to work. Let's get new people. And then he probably interviews, tries to interview as many of them as possible or something. And they have to, I don't know, stroke his ego or something. I don't know. But yeah, totally different night and day. You're totally correct on that.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, guess what? It's his company. He can do what he wants. It's at the end of the day, he bought it. He's the only one around here that ponied up $44 million $1 billion, excuse me. And yeah, he's the boss. Like he wants you to work there. You can work there. If he don't want you to work there, guess what? You're out.
And then Dex, the Texas man, you want to talk about that real quick? And then we'll go to our.
I hope this wasn't for social media, but apparently some gentleman was on the top of an 18-wheeler that was moving down the highway, dancing upon it. And definitely don't play the video. That you guys can go watch it on your own. But he didn't bother paying attention to the fact that an overpass was coming and was basically taken down by the overpass, and then eventually, I guess, perished from it. But I don't know if he jumped on the big rig from another overpass or what, but that's what they're suspecting. But this is not the type of horseplay people should be doing. It obviously can cause danger to anybody else that's on the highway, in addition to this person who obviously lost his life. Maybe a Darwin Award, I guess, goes out. But it's very sad thing for those loved ones around that person who lost his life. So.
Well, for some reason I feel like he's like 19 or 20. I wonder how old he was.
I'm just hoping he wasn't like TikToking, like set the camera up and doing
it looks
the whole
like
TikTok thing.
it looks like he has a phone in his hand. If you look carefully, it looks like he has a phone out. That's so horrendous, and you can see his fate about 15 feet in front of him, and he is being a dummy. I mean, it's very sad. But everyone right now looking at our 16 through 20-year-olds knows how this could have happened. Really, really sad. All right. Did we lose? Did we get back the same caller, or we?
No, we have a new caller.
That's too bad.
Justin True will call back another day. Guy who was in the jungle and losing cell service.
Justin True from Hawaii called in, and he had a great subject. So hopefully we'll get him in on the next one. I always like Justin's calls. He's really great. And then it looks like we're going to get our next caller on here in just a second. There we go. Okay, so let's see here. And Only Jesus Saves, first-time caller, talking about a strange past experience, portals, and strange beings, calling in from Arkansas. Will you get OJS, Only Jesus Saves, on the phone? I do want to remind folks, if you haven't already, you can go to marfooglenews.com/EMP to protect yourself against EMP. This is what the first caller was actually talking about. When you put an EMP shield on your car, it protects it, and it grounds the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second. That's trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your device, fry your car, fry your trucks, fry your boats, fry your ham radio. They make ones for your generators. They make ones for solar generators. In fact, in the Flex 1500 is the only solar generator you can get this for get an actual EMP shield brand shield for. And you can even get one wired into your home. It protects within 250 linear feet, which is most houses, from where it is wired in. So if you want to check this out, go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP. You'll get $50 off per device, and you'll be helping our channel at the same time. Plus, our grandfathered in discount also stacks on top of any of their holiday sales. Not to mention, this protects you against CMEs or a Carrington level event. If you do have a Carrington level event, which we will at some point, it's a matter of time, it's when, not if, this will protect you against that. So make sure to go check it out. It is 100% American made. It's a veteran-owned business, and it helps independent media. So thank you, everybody that has done that. Or if you think of somebody that would like this for Christmas, definitely a great time if you want to get it before Christmas. All right, and let's get Only Jesus Saves on. First-time caller, you are live on Marfoogle News.
Hey, Adam and Dax. I'll make this quick. Just wanted to tell you something that happened to me when I was about 12 years old. My dad worked for this street department, and one of his responsibilities was to keep an eye on the equipment. And so one night, our dogs, we had several dogs, and they just started barking just ferociously. And my dad said, it looks like there's something going on. They kept looking down where he worked. So he asked me to go down there with him. And like I say, I was about 12 years old. And went down there with him and was looking around, and he decided to go over by this other equipment and look around to see if he could see anything going on there. And I was actually looking out toward this field in front of me that my dog kept barking at. So about just a few minutes after my dad left, my dog was looking out toward this field, and I was too. And all of a sudden, this portal, for lack of a better term, opened up. It was almost like a doorway. This bipedal, solid black, almost like polished opal thing came walking out. There was a street light about 15 feet or so off to the right. This thing was not casting a shadow, and it almost looked like it had like a space helmet on, but everything was solid black, real shiny. And it's walking, and I'm guessing this thing was probably about 8 foot tall. It's walking, and it takes about, just a few, like I say, it walks about 15 feet, gets right up to the street light, and I'm noticing there's no shadow, and I'm about to freak out. And then this other portal opens up, this thing walks into it, and it's gone. And all of a sudden, my dogs stopped barking. They started wagging their tail and looking at me like, hey, whatever it was, it's gone. And so I've been carrying that for years and years. I've actually told several people over my lifetime about that situation, but I just thought I'd share that on your show because it's just one of those things that have happened in my life that I can't explain, and I'll just have to figure it out later on. But my dogs, they were barking, just like ferociously long before I saw whatever was down there. So I don't know if there was some frequency that they were hearing that made this portal open up, or exactly, why they were, going crazy long before I ever saw this thing. And then, like I say, once the portal opened up, this thing walked out, and then it walks through this other, what appeared to be a portal, and disappears. Then all my dogs stopped barking, and my Newfoundland that was with me, his name was Duke. He just started wagging his tail and looking at me like, hey, we ran off the bad thing, whatever it was. So just a true incident, and just thought I'd share it.
Someone said it reminds him of a demon. Just reminded me of the show Sandman, and in that show / comic book, they have a demon called Azrael, and it's like part of the. And I don't know if this is real lore, but it's like the devil's like army of minions, and they're trapped in sort of a portal type thing, or at least that's what it looks like. This is actually an image of kind of what Azrael looks like. It's like a figure that comes out of this rip in time space. Kind of freaky. So did the portal have color, or was it like anything you've ever seen in a movie? Or?
I just remember it's like a light. It was almost like it was nighttime, and it was almost like there was a light that kind of opened up. And it was almost like if you opened up a door and there was a light on the other side, then when the light, this thing comes walking out, and then that portal shut behind it. And then it goes like about 15 feet. And all of a sudden, this other portal, just all of a sudden, I see some light, and it walks through it, and it's gone. And it was just really one of those weird things that happened in my lifetime that I couldn't really explain. And one of the things I actually thought about asking L.A. Marzulli, I don't know if he, would know, but I've often wondered, is the portal still there, and it would take some frequency to open it up, or did that portal, once a portal closes, is it gone for good, or is it just sitting there waiting for something to open it back up?
And what did you say this was in a field? You said a field, and then there was a street light close?
It was actually, there's a field behind this particular shop that my dad worked at, and they had all this equipment that he had to kind of keep an eye on it at night. That was one of his responsibilities, to just make sure that, college kids wasn't down there, taking a water hose or something and trying to get a little gas, out of the vehicles for their cars or something. So, and that's kind of what we anticipated. Maybe that was what was going on. So we went down there, and he went over by all the equipment, walking around all it, trying to see if he could see anybody. And then that's when this thing opened up in front of me, and I yelled for my dad, and he came running over there, but it was long gone by that point, and he didn't see it. I just had to explain it to him, what I saw.
I have, mine's nothing like yours, but I saw 3 dots that were up in the sky that spun and then flew away when, I forget which, if it was Hale-Bopp or Halley's Comet, the one that was later. I wasn't alive for one of them, or I was barely alive.
That would be Hale-Bopp.
Hale-Bopp. So when Hale-Bopp, I still remember that. That was so freaky. That was my first experience with something in the sky. And it's still, to this day, I've never seen anything like it, because it was 3 dots. It then spun and went shoo and just disappeared. And from that day on, I was always looking up. The only reason I looked up is because of Hale-Bopp. And then when Hale-Bopp was there, it was something there, and then whoosh. I don't know if anybody else here saw that, but I saw that in Washington when I was a little kid. But yeah, so, nobody can tell you what you saw. And, somebody said, is this before the CGI days? I would assume, judged on your... Yeah. So...
Yeah, this was about 55 years ago.
Yeah, so I think they were trying to suggest that maybe something in your subconscious that you saw in a movie, but sounds like it was way before when you could have, but you were 12 too. You weren't like 5. Right. Sometimes when you're kids,
if you have time, I have one other short story to tell you that happened when I was probably about 6 or 7.
Go ahead. What is it?
And that, I was needing to use the restroom, and I went in the bathroom. We had this small house, and this little bathroom we had did not have any windows, and it had one of those little medicine cabinets on the wall. And I used the bathroom, and I turn around to wash my hands, and I look up, and there's a face in the mirror that's like a guy that's probably about 40 years old, with a black mustache and goatee and real black hair. And instead of seeing my face, I'm seeing this guy's face looking right at me. And I'm starting to pretty much come unglued. But then when he smiled at me, I just, not having a heart attack, but that's about as close as I've ever got to one. I come busting out of there and screaming and yelling. My mom, asked me what was wrong. And I told her, that I was looking in the mirror, and there was a grown man's face looking at me. My face was not in the mirror at all. And this guy didn't look anything like me. And the bathroom was too small for anybody to be hiding in there. And that was one of the things, like I say, I was around 7 years old, I guess, when that happened. And that's something else that I can't really explain. But when he smiled at me, I didn't like it at all.
That one is more creepy than any other one. That just sounds terrifying. Let's see. I was trying to find. That's isn't that like the Candyman thing? Where there's somebody. Yeah. Oh gosh.
I'm not familiar with that.
Some people think that you're dealing with demons, but that is just absolutely creepy. That's just creepy. I think he may have some.
Yeah, I see your picture on the screen. If you visualize that, but just a typical grown man, no horns or anything, but he had like coal black hair, and he had a mustache and a black goatee that went down probably about 2 or 3 inches below his chin. And, he looked, there wasn't really anything scary about him per se, other than just the fact he shouldn't have been there. And then when he smiled at me, I don't know, I didn't like it at all. So I started screaming and got out of there. It's a good thing I'd used the bathroom before I saw him.
Somebody asked if it was, if he sniffed your hair. He didn't sniff your hair, did he?
No.
Now, you don't have jet black hair and a goatee now, do you? You weren't seeing yourself in the future?
No. I'm just about bald, and I do have a slight mustache, but I've never had a goatee.
Huh.
And he didn't look anything like me. In fact, back then, the only thing I could think of was there's a musician, and I think they called him Mitch, Sing Along with Mitch or something like that. And that guy had coal black hair, and I think he may have had a mustache and a goatee, but that was the only thing that I even saw that even, come close to that, but he didn't look like him either.
Devin Cutmore asked.
I've never seen the guy either, and unfortunately, I don't know whatever happened to the medicine cabinet. I almost wish I knew, where it got off to, because I'd be curious if I looked into it, again, would I see something, or would I just see me?
Devin Cutmore asked a good question. Did he look like he was from the same time period? Did it look old style hair?
I think he had a black suit that, to me, wasn't really periodic for that age. It actually seemed, more newer, something that you would probably see around the 80s, as opposed to, something that you see around in the early 60s.
Ugh. Well, that is.
Of course, I didn't really hang around people with suits, but.
Well, that definitely very creepy. I'm sure I would have had the same reaction. Well, Only Jesus Saves. Thank you for calling in, and I appreciate you. And it's your first time call. Don't make it your last.
Well, if I have anything worth saying, I'll call. But I've been holding this for quite a while and decided I'd go ahead and call you. But these stories are true. There's absolutely no shadow of a doubt these things actually happened to me, and I got no reason to lie, so figure I'd let you know about it.
Well, thank you so much. And again, I appreciate you. And by the way, anybody who listens or watches chat when they, if they ever watch the chat replay, I don't know why people choose to be masochist and look at the chat when they call in, but people will go to the replay and watch. There's always going to be people that don't believe you. I'm sure even when I told my story of seeing the 3 dots, people aren't going to believe you they're not going to believe me. But you just got to realize that you saw it, and
right. There's not always much you can speculation until they see it something themselves, and then they realize, well, maybe those people that told me before they saw something, they wasn't as crazy as I thought they were.
Yep, but you do find the people that have seen things like this, and then you find people that you have something, of real great in common with. Yes, so thank you again for calling in, and I believe you. I've seen some crazy stuff, and I've seen some really creepy stuff too. So again, I appreciate your call, and again, we'll talk to you again.
Great. Y'all have a great night. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. That was OJS, Only Jesus Saves, and again, three first-time callers tonight. It's too bad we didn't get Justin in, but we'll get him in next time. And then 3 butchered boudettes washed ashore in Acapulco, Mexico, as tourists lounge nearby. The remains of 3 people washed ashore in Acapulco, Mexico over the weekend, shocking beachgoers. It says gruesome photos show a body lying face up in his sun-soaked Condesa Beach as tourists gawk and the families wade in the water nearby. All of the people that washed up showed signs of torture. can probably assume that this was something with cartel, I'm assuming. But it said that essentially there's not much, there's not so much information about it. But when you find 3 people washed up on a Mexico beach, it's kind of where our minds go, right? But we'll follow it, and if there's any updates on it. By the way, one of the 2 of the people found on Condesa was bound to a cement anchor, and the third found on Icos has been taken out in the back of the head, aka a Hillary unalive style. And then we have DB Cooper expert. New evidence points to the person of interest in unsolved case. Out of Washington, Vancouver, Washington, a simple black necktie may be the smoking bang bang to solving a mystery that has fascinated the country and law enforcement officials for 50 years. Who is DB Cooper and what happened to him? Dax, do you want to describe what happened here? Essentially, there's some new stuff out on a very old case.
Yeah, apparently. So for those of you that don't know the DB Cooper story, really quickly, he hijacked a plane, landed, exchanged the passengers for a whole bunch of money and some parachutes, took the crew, flew off, and in the process of flying off, went to the back of the plane and apparently or allegedly jumped out with parachute and all the money. Never been found. Never found the money, never found the parachutes, never found him. Apparently, but his tie or this tie was left behind. And I guess through all of this historical research and stuff, they basically have come to the conclusion that they think it's a certain person and they're trying to validate it based off of this apparent tie, this tie that he wore. And I think there's a picture of it if you really want to see the tie worn by DB Cooper. They actually have it. There's a picture of it in this article. But they're claiming it's a person. The person they're claiming is deceased, but the family say no, it probably wasn't him. The other thing that is also part of the mystery of DB Cooper is when he where he bailed out of in Washington or in the area in the air, he was pretty high up. There was really bad weather. And they said like you wouldn't really have survived that. Even if you were an experienced parachuter, it would have been paratrooper. It would have been very difficult. And they also said that the second chute they gave him was a dummy chute. It was actually stitched together. He should have noticed that and he didn't. And if he was an experienced paratrooper, he would have double checked his chute before he went out. So there's a lot of controversy around this. It's been a long historic, history of DB Cooper's been out there for a long time. Everybody wonders who it is. Did he survive? Where's the money? Et cetera, et cetera. But, they think they have a lead here. I don't know if it's going to lead to a living person, but it looks like it possibly leads to a deceased person, but not fully solved yet. But definitely interesting if you like that kind of story.
What is really weird is I saw a YouTube video where they found some buried cash, and I swear because they were around the area where he got dumped off, and they found such old cash buried along the water or something, and they thought it was DB Cooper's part of it. So if it's true, then that would mean that he did somehow land. And they found it with like a metal detector. Maybe it was when I was watching all this metal detector stuff, like, where the people walk around with metal detectors and find cool old rings or something. And they found like a tin box with cash in it. And it looked like it had, I want to say that it wasn't an ink pack, but it was like something that you would get straight from the bank. And the money was damaged and even burnt possibly. Dex, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think there's another picture. If you scroll down with the map, you're familiar with the state of Washington more so than I am. I just know where it is in general. But I think there's maybe even some water in this map that you could recognize from that story you're talking about.
Yeah, the Columbia River. And Lake Merwin.
Or was it Lake Merwin?
Merwin? Maybe that was it. It was on, it looked like either a little creek or a little river. It wasn't a huge one. It was like you could see the other side when they were videoing it. And then it was right along like just a typical little river where it was a little bit of sand along 2 or 3 feet of it. And they found a spot where something was dinging. Oh, it says it right there. Look at that. It says $5,800 found. Look at that. I think that's what they were talking about. So, and that's $5,800 of back then money. I don't know what that equal now, but it was a big chunk. And maybe makes me want to go out and get a metal detector. Too bad there's not a money detector. Yeah. Wow. If it's coins, then yeah, you guys get my meaning. Dex, thank you for your service tonight. You're going to go over the web only. I did want to say thank you to a few more people. Thank you to the super chats and super thanks, Lori Oder. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for your support tonight. And then, of course, Chanel Beveliqua. Thank you. Wow. Thank you, Chanel. I appreciate that. That's not necessary. I really love it when you guys do comments with those. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for your support. Thank you for supporting Independent. Rhino Knightley says, Ryan, Vancouver, Portland area, says, I've been watching you for 5+ years. I can't chat live because YouTube says I subscribed while watching kid content. Rhino Knightley, Mike, oh man, if I don't log out and if my kids do the YouTube thing, it screws up my recommendations. In fact, I bet you it's all like the whatever the woman who plays video games and stuff, and that is frustrating. And if you watch too much of the kids shows or something, if your kids watch that, it will say switch to YouTube Kids because of that new COPPA thing that went in. They like separate it. That's happened to a lot of people actually. Chanel Bivaliqua, thank you so much. Bible Talk 777 BT 777. Sad thing is everyone that will be fighting for USA will be fighting for an evil country. We are the bad guys. BT 777, that's why I say support your vets. You don't have to support the cause. And then Nana of Montana, thank you as well for massive support. Thank you for the super sticker. Thank you for the cute fox. Redhead Mama, stay prepped up and looking to Jesus. He is the only way that who saves. Love you all. Thanks Adam, Dex, and Mods. Redhead Mama 81, beautiful message, and thank you so much. Kenny Crowder, Adam, Dex, and Foogle fam. To the best mods on YouTube. Keep your head on a swivel, be safe, and love your way. Again, thank you, Man Overboard Media, MT Johnson, Will 1776, Joe Voigt, BNB, Blue Boy 1968 Chappie, and Grace for You Too, and of course, Carol McLean. Dex, let's go over the web only. We've got a lot of crazy stuff here.
Wow, there's a lot. So head over to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or open up the show notes link in the description on YouTube. Just open that description. It's the first link. Over on Umble, it's right there too. It's in the description. Easy to get to. It'll take you right here. You get to all the articles we've covered. On this page at the very bottom is all the caller information. And then right in the middle is this section called Overflow. This is where the rest of the story is. And we're going to go through it quickly because there's a lot to cover. There's a literal witch hunt that went down. Some people did some pretty bad things to some people they were claiming to be. So if you want to know more about that, you can learn about it. Some updates on the economy and what's happening with what they're saying, the wholesale prices, as well as household debt numbers that came out, and other things. There's that shortage of Adderall continues. So now the prices are starting to skyrocket as people that leverage or use that for their needs they're not able to find it. Updates on the crypto side. Definitely there's another company that's about to hit bankruptcy. More updates on the whole SAM issue with FT and the X is what's happening there, as well as some claims. And this is from a big mainstream media talking about some people in our government that took some of that money. And if you want to know more about that story, go read it. It's not coming from alternative. This is coming from the main side, which is kind of interesting to see. Definitely some updates on Musk and what's been going on there. That just seems to be all over the news. But there's also things happening in the political spectrum. Again, Arizona's got some updates, especially with the governor's race that's been now called. You can find out who won there. As we mentioned in the beginning of the show, many of you probably heard because it was all over the place on every major network, every major outlet. T-Man is now running again officially in 2024. So there's a lot, and I imagine there'll be even more of this news, whether for or against, coming out in the not too distant future. So pay attention to that. Kevin Costner's in the news. Fire ants have invaded Hawaii. If you're curious about what's happening to that, you can go find it out. And do you think money can buy happiness? The answer is within. They did a study. They gave out 10 grand. I wish they'd have given it to me because I could have told them I was super happy, but they didn't. They just gave it to some other people. But you can find out what happens if money can buy happiness. That and so much more. There's a lot here on the site, so go check it out. And of course, all the caller information is down below. Marfooglenews.com. Click on the thumbnail for the show, or if you're on YouTube or on Humble, just open up the description and look for show notes. Click that link.
It's really sad. I just think it's just everybody's making it one way or the other, but DeSantis and T-Man fighting and saying scoreboard, and so now they're going to battle for it. It seems shady to me. You would think, I would think that, I don't know. I would think that DeSantis has a spot in the future. A lot of people think like he would give it up to T-Man, considering what he said in the early times of 2020. But Dex, go ahead.
I think it's a plan. I think it's a plan. You got too many people in one side that don't like him, so the party itself is sort of divided. So I think it's a plan to grab both sides and then bring them together later. So you got to polarize them. You got to polarize them for a little bit, get everybody behind their favorite, and then bring them together.
They do that. They do that too. They did that with Kamala and JB, right? They sat there next to each other. She picked on JB for being pro-segregation and stuff, and then he picked on her, and they fought, and that was the realest.
Yeah, but they didn't rally bases around those two. Those two didn't have numbers.
No, but they didn't. And so, but if they did do anything funky, they would have to do it. If it was both of them together, that would be insane. They would have to basically just like put everybody to sleep. They would just have to just like satellite distribute like laughing gas, and then do their thing, right? They won't have to put anything over the windows. They just put us all to sleep. You guys have a great night. And it's time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. Thank you, Dex. Love you.
Much love. Great job, brother. Article 5, nobody gonna be left alive. Article 4, Article 5, nobody gonna be left alive. Article 4, Article 5, nobody gonna be left alive. Article 4, Article 5. Article 4, Article 5, nobody gonna be left alive. Article 4, Article 5, nobody gonna be left alive.
All right, let's make this one for Chanel Bevelicqua.